Welcome back to the Blatherings Conversation. Ken Napzok with you. I want to shout out all the people who saw me in New York City, New York Comedy Club out there on 4th Street, East Village. What a lot of fun we had out there. I was expecting rain. Instead, we got warm hugs and laughter. Oh, thank you all. And also those who are supporting my album release, In My Day, available on Bandcamp. The special edition is, and also out there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, all that fun stuff. Thank you all. But enough of that bullshit. We are here for a very fun conversation with one of my favorite new people in my life, meaning I have met him over the course of the last couple of years doing comedy at Flappers in Burbank. But he goes way beyond that place. You might know him by his brand name on Instagram, a bougie bisexual. But please welcome to the show, my friend, as they say in comedy, hopefully yours soon, Christopher Cowan-Blond. How are you doing, Christopher?
Hello. I'm happy to be here.
Well, good. I'm happy to have you. And I'm going to start by telling a little story and praising you. Okay. I have a can you accept praise comfortably?
Okay. Yes, I
Okay.
can.
Okay. Because I can't. If people say nice things about me, I run away, maybe even screaming at them. You're one of the bravest comics I see out there. And let me explain. There was one particular night, and you host a lot, you go on stage a lot, not just at Flappers, all around the city. You have a style that's very unique. Sometimes you got your bits. Other times you go up there and just free form and free flow and just find yourself in the moment, and it's wonderful. And that's brave and so brave. There was one night I was going up number 2, and the first comic was a guy who rushed into the green room and did that whole thing where he's like, "Hey, can I go up first? I have another gig." Like, okay, Jay Leno, whatever. You're gigging around town. And he was supposed to do 10 minutes. The rest of us had 5. He goes up. He was a white dude from Boston. I got no problems with white dudes from Boston. Yeah, I get it. I get it. It's an atmosphere. It's a vibe. And he did 10 minutes of the most like toxic, masculine, chauvinistic, sexist mid 90s, making a comeback now comedy. And the crowd didn't just, they were uncomfortable, they were angry, and they didn't know what to do with it. And he was upset at the crowd for being upset at him. He goes off stage. I come up, and as I'm coming up, I'm number 2, and I'm thinking, should I call it out? Should I say something? No, let me just put my head down and pretend it didn't happen and do my set. And I didn't have a good set because the crowd was kind of like, didn't Ken just see what happened? You came up, and I don't even know if you were hosting. You might have just been doing a set, but you came up shortly after. And the comic had left the building because he had other gigs. And you politely, professionally, you didn't rip into him personally. You ripped into the moment and you won that crowd over in a way. And I was sitting in the back having some shrimp scampi or whatever they served there, Flappers, thinking, this guy, Christopher, has an iron will on stage that I wish I had. That's why you're one of the bravest comics I know.
Oh, thank you. It's wild because you could be talking about any night. I love those are like my favorite moments. Those are my favorite moments at comedy shows, and I think audiences love it too. I think that's why it was so easy to turn them because they were probably waiting like who's gonna say it? Who's gonna say it?
Say it. It was such an honest moment, and my choice was maybe a stoic professional comic. Let's not the guy's just trying to do his work, but he was an asshole.
Yeah.
He was an asshole,
Mhm.
and it needed to be said. And assholes can get they can have big podcasts and they can have big numbers, but they're still assholes, and the crowd
Mhm.
knows it when it goes wrong. Anyways, that was I'd known you before, but that was my true introduction to you. I was like, I love this guy. I
I love that. That's the, what's so crazy? I want that to be how I get introduced to the world. Like I want people, I don't want, I mean, it would be cool if like later on they find out, oh, he's a really good comedian, actor, writer, blah, blah. But I want them to hear about me, like, you hear about this guy? He calls himself a bougie bisexual and he goes up and rips it to the president. Like, I don't know, like whatever's happening in the moment, I would love to be the one that calls it.
Hey, it's there. You are honest to yourself. You're honest to your audience, and that fuels a lot of what I know of you already. Where are you right now as a comic, as a citizen of LA? You came from you're Tennessee based before.
Yes, Memphis,
Memphis.
Tennessee. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
absolutely. When did you come out to pursue this dream?
So I came out to Los Angeles in the middle of the pandemic. Now,
Yeah.
keep in mind, I'm coming from the South. So the pandemic has ended. So like, I was
It
before
started, it ended.
well, it was done. The bars were back open, and people were back drunk in the street like nothing had ever happened.
The
And
their
then, and
brains are
not
dripping
just
out of their eyes, and they're like, "It's just
their brains is
flu."
dripping, half of their family's dead. They're just in the street like I don't know. Was that rain? I don't know. And mind you, I'm coming from the most southern. Well, actually, no. I think they're number two to another state.
Mm.
But I'm coming from the most wild of the wild wild west. I'm coming from Houston, Texas.
Ah,
I'm coming from
mm, mm,
Texas.
you
I went to college
okay,
I went to college in Houston. I went there straight from Memphis, so that's where I was coming from when I got to
gotcha,
Houston. I mean,
gotcha.
Los Angeles.
Wow. Wow. So you hit here. What this show, I often interview comics because I've been around them for 20 plus years now, and they're fascinating and broken people all at the same time. What drove you're also a writer and an actor as well, and I don't say that lightly. That
Yeah.
those are valuable, hard pursuits as well. But comedy is a
Mhm.
particular brand of broken. What made you
Yeah.
turn your eyes to that?
So, my relationship with the arts is that I discovered it in high school in theater, and I've always been like, I think that this is, I can only speak from like living life in the black community. Being funny is a high value currency.
Mm,
You can do a lot with a good yo mama joke in the black community. You can go so far with some good jokey jokes. So I've always been funny,
yeah.
but I never I like being a comedian didn't really I wish then again I guess you shouldn't because it changes who you are, but I wonder what it would have been like if, as a child, I would have been staying up watching stand up
Mm,
comedians and stuff like that. The only comic that I always enjoyed and always had my ear and eye out for was Chris Rock. Like
mhm,
Chris Rock
mhm,
is my comedian idol.
yeah.
And but being a comedian was never my thing. And in high school, I fell in love with acting, and I told my theater teacher that I wanted to go to New York and be an actor.
Mm.
And he said that if you go to New York, you're going to be broke and homeless. You should go to law school. I see that for you. And that's what happened. I went to study pre law.
Okay.
And one day I was so when you're getting ready to go to law school, you usually like there's two major waiting periods
Mm,
on the journey to become an attorney. There's the journey when you're studying for the LSAT to to get the score to try to apply to your ideal law school, and then it's after law school when you're applying for the bar or you're studying to take the bar. And in I was a senior in school, so this is I'm like headed towards the end,
yeah.
and I was a part of this. So there's a conglomerate grocery called HEB, and they were doing this fellowship where you work for them and you work on their legal end, and you kind of work under them and learn what it looks like to be a lawyer, and they sponsor you and give you a certain type of stipend under the notion that once you graduate law school you will come back and work for the company. That's kind of how the program works.
Gotcha.
A part of the program, though, to get in the part of their interviewing process was we had to write a commercial and act it out. And it couldn't be like we're like in the room.
Yeah.
Like so it couldn't be like a big production. It had to be you write it out monologues out. So you basically write out this thing and you sell them a product. And everybody was like, "What?" Mind you, these are law.
Gotcha.
So just to know, attorneys as boring as bread, like sourdough bread, lawyers are, and they everybody's just like, I don't know, is it? And I'm like, got in the bag, bag of the kids, I got this one. So I go do it, and I light up that room
Mm,
like I, I I go somewhere else, and it was the loudest. It was like and I call it just the universe. I'm a Christian, so I
mhm,
believe in like those type of rules,
yeah.
spirits, and stuff. And I like something in me was like, you need to pursue that.
Yeah.
Like something in me just told me that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So I still didn't think of comedy. I knew that I had just, I essentially performed a set. I
Yeah.
essentially performed a set in front of them. And then I found an open mic night. I went up, I wrote one joke. I wrote one joke and just assumed the rest would come to me.
Wow.
I wrote
See?
one joke.
Brave. Maybe slightly naive, but brave.
I wrote one and I like tweaked it, but the joke was essentially, it was essentially, because I think I used to tell it all the time. I've changed it, but I think the joke was, I go to Target all the time, and those workers know I have no life and no friends. At least they don't know I'm stealing. Like that was the joke. Like that
That was
was the
it.
joke. And then after that, I got a big laugh. And then after that, like we were just kind of just like sit, and I was just like, and I remember leaving because I had got that big laugh and then started talking, and just it was awful.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my car and feeling these two strong emotions. I felt super sad and embarrassed I had just did so bad, but I also felt this sense of sadness because I was like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's what. So then I got into improv to try to beat stage fright.
Okay.
It didn't. It doesn't. But from that point on, I just started learning how to write proper material, and then I ventured off. I knew just from just research and meeting people. One of my old improv teachers, he has said to me that most of a lot of people come and go. A lot of people go out to Los Angeles and New York, and I remember asking him, like, is this, because it was at this point, this is a turning stone where I have to make the
Yeah.
decision. Either I'm going to pursue this thing or I'm going to go to law school.
Right.
And every single person in my life was saying the same thing. Oh, go to law school, become an attorney, and then do it after. And I just instinctively knew that was just the wrong path to take.
Mm.
And but it kind of got down to the wire where I needed to make some type of decision on what I was going to do in my life. And that's how I made the decision to come to Los Angeles.
That see, this keeps in line with everything I've thought about you. Absolutely brave and honest to yourself, and I think we all have those kind of moments. I've had them too. The promotion opportunity at the day job pops up just as you have to make a choice for your career, and I've chosen the career, almost every time. It took me a while. That's what you talk about, this eureka moment of learning, and I love how you described it. Sadness and embarrassment from maybe that was a bad 7 minutes of an 8-minute set, but that minute making you sad in a happy way. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was the hammer to the head you needed.
yeah. I feel like it's kind of that kind of that tick that I think all comedians have, because I truly think that there's something off with comedians, that we need
Yeah.
laughter. And I think that the more damage, the bigger the star. Like if you look at all of like the stars out
Yeah.
there, like have you been watching the Vice Dark Side of Comedy?
I haven't picked I worked in pro wrestling for a long time, and so I haven't even gone to their Dark Side of the Ring one because it's too real. So I'm
Yes,
gonna go to
it's a bit
comedy
too
one.
real. Yeah, but it's kind of like the a bit of the same sword
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
way. Like I was watching the episode on Chris Farley,
Mhm.
and they talked a lot about how what really fueled his addiction was his bad relationship with his body image
Yeah, yeah.
issues. But at the same token, they had like writers of people who had worked with him, and they will write in the script, "Fatty falls down,"
Yeah.
and get huge laughs. And he had this confliction of, I have to do this thing, but it's like hurting me.
Yeah.
And I think that as comedians, we kind of have these conflicting things that we still feel like energized to pursue.
Yeah, it's part of what we're exploring up there, and that's why nothing against class clowns, even if you talk about your currency being humor coming up. I don't necessarily consider it just simply a class clown, but class clowns to me always have the vibe of they make a joke, everyone laughs, they move on. It's Seinfeld that said, "I would make a joke, kids would laugh, and 7 months later, I'd be asking myself, how did that work? How can I make it better? And how can I get that feeling again?" So we're all working through stuff, and I'm not going to assume you're working through a ton of stuff on stage. Sometimes you're just damn funny. But even your branding, I want to talk about your branding, your Instagram channel, which is just wonderful. I want people to follow you, a bougie bisexual. I've watched you kind of develop that a little bit over the last year or so, unless I'm incorrect in that. You've had it longer that, but it just seems like it's a part of you. It is the biggest part of you, and you're owning it and coming to that realization on stage a little bit, right? Or am I off a little?
No, you're absolutely correct. I think for a while, I knew that like from the beginning. I also had that thing, this Seinfeld. I think I articulated it. Well, at least I didn't have the language to articulate it. Where I wanted to say something funny, but wanted to mean something to the audience, but also to me. Like I wanted it to be coming
Yeah,
from this because I a part of it, and I'm a Scorpio, and I'm not like super crazy on the zodiacs, but it's kind of helped me understand like why I think the way I think.
yeah.
I'm very kind of mysterious in a way sometimes, but I think that when like my biggest goal, especially in the past few months, was I really wanted to be vulnerable. Like I really wanted to
Mm,
tell those truths of my feelings in my life, and that's kind of how I saw leaning into the bougie bisexual of it
mm,
and kind of peeling back that layer of how I actually see my sexuality, how I actually see my economic standing, how I actually see myself in
yeah.
society, and in trying to like and I guess do what I call it, working things out. I think like digging, like I'm
Mm,
always like that's the thing that's always in my head when I'm writing material.
mm,
I'm always asking myself, am I digging? Am I digging? Like is there deeper I can go? Like what? Like I'll write a joke
mm.
and I'll look at that joke and I'll just ask myself, what does this mean? Or what does it really mean? Okay, it really means that, but what does that really
Yeah,
mean? Like I always try to keep digging into things.
yeah. See, I knew you were smarter than me. This is insightful. No, and it shows. It shows in just who you are on stage, and I'm sure there's just some of the places you've come from, your upbringing, belief systems, having to dig within those systems and within those communities to find yourself and find out who you are to yourself has probably made your comedy even more poignant, or at least your search for poignancy in comedy more important.
It did. And I always at a young age, and I say I don't know where it comes from, but like maybe family members were like, I put that in your head. But I was always somebody who I didn't have the most ideal, upbringing,
Mm,
but at a young age, I always made the decision that like you're talking to a person who I left high school and I never went back.
mm,
Like I didn't go home for 10 years.
mm,
And even then I wouldn't have went if my aunt wasn't so sick. I thought it would be the last time I see my aunt and that's why I traveled to go see. But I remember my senior year of high school telling everyone like I'm never coming back. And making and kind of making this decision that all the things around me that were hurting me wouldn't matter because I was gonna pave a new path for myself. Even with like being
mm,
bisexual, it wasn't something that I didn't really know what bisexual was like as a. I don't even think I was familiar with that phrase. Like I
mm,
think even now, like a part of what I get feedback from like people who like I'm like shy about saying it, but like fans like when they reach out to me. Like I recently had a couple come to a show to see me, and it
mm,
I could have just like cried because I'm like, oh wow, like this is so cool. And they kind of quietly told me that like the husband was bisexual,
mm.
And he was like, I love the way you talk about it. Like I love the like we don't hear people talk about it. And he's right. Like when I was growing up, at least it was straight or gay.
Right.
It was either you're gay or you're straight and you're on the down low or whatever. But there wasn't really the spectrum didn't exist, if you will. So
Hey, I grew up in
being
the '80s. It was either you're straight or a sinner, and that
yeah,
what my
and
yeah,
and one of the jokes that I hold dear to me is I say I think I'm bisexual. No, I think oh it says I'm bisexual because I went to a lot of gay clubs growing up. Church. That is like a and I know I know I know it's like a fiery joke, but that's me. Like that's me like who's gonna go at it, who's gonna put myself out
yeah,
there. And I do it from a place of like like a lot of people talk about like making your inner child happy, but
yeah.
I think I've already made him happy. I kind of want to at least make space for other kids who were or
Yeah.
are like I was, and to kind of give that type of exposure.
Did you have any person, anything, any piece of media that helped you in that regard coming up, or did you have to dig, to find this yourself?
Ironically enough, so my and then like another thing about like the whole sexuality thing, it's I used to think that it was kind of like weird, but I think it's just like my story. So coming out, I'm a lot more I'm a lot more I'm not a stereotypical black guy. And where I was from, I can genuinely say I was around a lot of stereotypical black people. Like a lot of the kids were like thugged out athletes or like rappers or like tough guys,
Mm,
especially like the boys in my family. And I was never really like that. I was always very heavily attracted to girls.
okay.
And I remember being I remember my and it worked for a while. My how would I say my like scheme used to be become best friends with a girl, become best friends with all her best friends, make her laugh, and then she'll be my girlfriend. And I did that a lot. Like as a kid, I had so many girlfriends,
Yeah,
and I ended up primarily like being around girls and like being into what girls are into, which made me a lot more feminine than like the average little boy.
yeah,
And I like genuinely the way I ended up start experimenting is that like, a lot of people don't know this.
yeah.
So back in the day, when like Wi-Fi wasn't as advanced as it is now, but back then Wi-Fi was
Oh,
around.
yeah, I know, yeah.
You know how? Do you remember how you could get on blocked websites if you put HTTPS?
Yes, yes,
Yes, right?
yes.
So I remember I was a part of I grew up in the Bible Belt, so I was part of all the church programs
Mm,
and all the churches, like all the stuff. And here's the thing. In churches, you can't get on porn on the church Wi-Fi,
yeah,
but you can get on gay porn. Only straight, only, and I swear, kids, if you have a church camp to go to or a fall retreat, check it out. And here's the genuine thing, Ken. I could not access any straight porn.
yeah,
Gay porn was all I had. And at the same time, because of my feminine ways, other kids start calling me gay. So girls weren't really into me that way.
mm, mm,
So what happened was other closeted gay boys were into me, and I was just kind of like, what? And I for the longest, like all the way even into high school, I genuinely would be so offended when people would be homophobic towards me because I would feel like you put this on me. I was not watching gay
you
porn
did it.
until you sent me to church camp
Yeah,
and took away my straight porn. So what was I supposed to do?
this
That is genuinely how it all went down.
yeah,
And then of course, like I, continuously explore it. But that's genuinely how like how my sexuality came to
This
be.
is fantastic. First of all, I hope this not only is a part of your set. I hope this becomes a central bit.
I probably should. I probably talked about
It's
this.
got
I
to be. It's
probably
got to
should.
be a central bit in your first hour when that's released because this is amazing. Yeah, with because often I think with under the banner of moral panics, whether it be the 1950s overall or just church panics, I came up in the satanic panic of the 80s. It's a little bit of yeah. You. I don't want you to go get a girl pregnant, so I'm going to lock you in your room with your best friend, and then you and your best friend end up jerking each other off. You know, like you did this.
Just,
I would
yeah, you did.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
see and hear those stories time and time and time again, because this fear of this moral panic doesn't deal with the reality of what's going on.
It does. It's very delusional.
Yeah.
Most of it is quite delusional.
So there you go. If anything, kids, if you're stuck in a vacation Bible school on your iPhone, you can take it from Christopher. You can look up the one of your
Yeah.
dreams. That's amazing. Do you, let's go big. Let's go deep here on this here. You still find yourself within the structure of the a faith system, Christianity. That's the one I was raised in, and still hold to the tenets, though I don't hold to the people as much anymore in the church, especially the politics they play. But that's a fascinating. I think people would still be unfortunately confused by that. Where's your heart with that? When you finally come to the hey, this is who I am. What do you feel God's answer is? I want this big philosophical question answered, Christopher.
You know, in high school, I did used to like a part of me. In high school, I used to think like, oh, none of it will matter because one day I'll have a wife and kids, and like none of it will
The,
matter.
the, the game will
And
be not just prayed away, but it'll be washed away.
yeah, like it'll be gone away. Like I'll just be faithful to my wife, and I'll be done sucking dick. Like
Mhm.
it won't be a dick to be seen. And I think what I believe is that your relationship with God belongs to God.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I absolutely used to struggle a lot with
Mhm.
my relationship with God. And I will say, um, maybe I would feel differently. Like I don't have this internal secular
Mhm.
struggle with spirituality, but I think that's probably because I have I have transcended my knowledge of the subject. I've transcended my understanding of these texts, and
Mhm.
I've gone to a mental place where I've reached an understanding of, I didn't buy the bisexual ticket. Like I didn't like I didn't, like if this is Adam and Eve, I don't recall eating a bisexual banana. So if God didn't want me to be bisexual, God shouldn't have. Like, let's think about it, right? You have to, like, if you think about like it's like God says you're not killing is a sin. You have to do a lot to kill someone,
Mhm. Mhm.
like you have to like actively go. It's an action. Being a sexuality isn't an action. It's a being.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't my relationship with my religion isn't as skewed. However, I think that when you get to a certain space in life, your lifestyle reflects that as well. Because
Mhm.
for what it's worth, I'm a guy in his early 20s living in a metropolitan city.
Mhm.
I might later in life where because I've always seen my story ending in the suburbs, married with kids. Maybe I'll struggle differently,
Mhm.
like when I'm there.
Right.
So because I think that I thought about it more as a youth because church was like such a thing there. Like church
Sure. Memphis.
was
Yeah.
that activity. Like every even like when I came out here, I was kind of surprised that things are like open Sunday morning. Things aren't just open
Yes.
maybe now, but I actually still don't even think so because like even in Texas, you can't buy
Mhm.
alcohol
Mhm.
before like I don't know is that I can't I don't think it is. I'm sure it's not here, but
No.
you can't
Not.
yeah, you can buy alcohol
No.
like there's a window of time where you can buy alcohol
Yeah.
on some days in the South, and even if you go um, outside of the because Memphis, I like to say Memphis is a big city, but it's a small town.
Sure.
It's a very big city. It's a very flagrant, like people know about it. It has
Buddies.
a lot of
Buddies.
big figures who come out of it. Yeah. So it has a very small mindset,
Mhm.
and most towns like Memphis in the South are kind of like that.
Mm.
So you can't help but see it and deal with it.
Yeah.
Like I remember this guy I used to have sneaky links with in high school.
What'd you call sneaky links?
Sneaky links, you sneak away and get the hunching. I remember I distinctly, and he would do it.
Yeah.
He would like mention it sometimes,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
one and you cut me off if I shouldn't do too many stories.
Do it.
But I'll like summarize this one.
Yeah.
So I met Joel Osteen before he was Joel Osteen.
Oh,
So a lot of people
yeah.
don't know Joel Osteen. There was a time where Joel Osteen wasn't Beyonce. He was a
Yeah.
very he was a known pastor, but he was a known amongst the Bible
Yeah.
Belt. Like
Yeah.
like right now, I truly believe some people, especially people who go to his church, when they're praying to Jesus, they're imagining Joel. Like he's so synonymous with Jesus
Yes.
Christ. Like nowadays, like he's really ascended
Yes.
to become a single.
These
But at
yeah.
the
Yeah.
time, he earned his oats, like a lot of these pastors do, which is a whole nother conversation about ethics.
Mm.
But they earned their oats going to these teenage Christian retreats and
Right,
camps.
right.
And basically, they go there and have this type of conversation. And then naturally, you go back to your parents and say, oh, you know, this Joel guy. And they go, oh, maybe we should go sign up for his church.
Mm.
At the time, I remember I was having this hookup with one of the kids. Because I do joke about this in my set. It is so ironic how parents in the South send their gay kids to church camp,
Mm.
never realizing what happens when all the gay kids are together at the church camp. So,
They just roast
I,
marshmallows, they pray to Jesus.
yeah.
Right.
So I interrupted this kid praying his gay away and got the gay in with him. And we later on that night, Joel did a guest
Yeah.
sermon. And he shows up, and this is when Katy Perry was first getting famous.
Right.
And
And
remember
she had come from the
how
church. She had come from the
yeah, and that's what I'm getting
Yeah.
at. So Katie, a lot of people don't know. I think people hear about it now, but for a long time, she really put a lot of money into hiding this.
Yeah.
Katy Perry was actually pretty big in the Christian world.
Mm-hmm.
She was a Christian singer. She was like in one of those kooky bands,
Mm-hmm.
and and she was supposed to take. So Katy Perry was supposed to take Christian music mainstream.
Right.
Like she got her record deal. She was supposed to become the Jesus is Madonna. Like she was like that was what she was supposed to do. And then she came down with I Kissed a
Yeah.
Girl, and they wanted to nail her to the
Yeah.
cross. They were like, you're gonna die for this. And every pastor was just trolloping the land,
Yeah. talking
talking to kids about her because they were trying to kill her career. They were trying to like get this song killed or whatever.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
he's doing this sermon about Katy Perry. And I'm sitting there, and even as a child, I was very in the know. Like I always was like, this is stupid. I remember looking at Katy Perry and just being like, I don't even think she is a lesbian. I think she's just doing this. Like I remember just like always having this snark about me.
Yeah.
And I remember like sitting in church like, this is so stupid. And I just think like I'm like going back to it online. I remember being like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because I was that kid, and even as an adult, I do this at work to my coworkers. I love to like see something and whisper jokes in the person's
Right.
ear.
Right.
And I remember like whispering jokes to him, and he was like laughing at the guy that I had just hooked up with. And I remember saying a joke, and I didn't hear him like laugh, and I said it again. And then I turned to him, and he was like crying,
Hmm.
and I was like, And me, my little evil Scorpio gay brain was like, ew, he's crying. I want to hook up after this. What is he doing? This is turning
I
me
can't
off.
hook
That's
up.
literally, I'm literally thinking this in the middle of, yeah, it's like, it's crazy. I'm like thinking this in the middle of service. And Jaw is like, if you have been doing something under, I can't remember the biblical term for gay. It's a biblical term for gay. But he was like, stand up and come and repent. And I remember being like, nice try. And the guy just ascends as if God has lifted him up. He walks up and points me out.
No.
And I'm just like, what? Like, literally, I'm watching him walk up to there, and I'm like, this is so stupid. Because in kids, because I've done it before. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, like I don't know if you've seen like those pictures on YouTube where a woman catches the Holy Ghost and she is like yelling and screaming and
Yeah.
stuff. Sometimes like they're all fake, but
Yeah.
sometimes you get caught up in it and you're like, woo,
Yep.
and you just like the excitement. And that's what I thought was happening with him. And I'm like, oh, like good for you, have your moment. And he like points me out, and thank God, there were other gay kids repeating. So I kind of got lost in the fray, and I was able to kind of
Yeah.
like stick to the back.
Yeah.
But I remember never liking Joel ever since then. And then next time I saw Joel, he was like he had bought that big like the church he has now. It like the structure. It used to be the Houston Rockets arena.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember being like, this is that freak that tried to out me. It was so crazy.
That
But yeah,
yeah, no, I mean, no, a tax-free, organization that he is in, I'm sure. Yeah, no, I mean, that's why I love the Righteous Gemstones. It's based in a lot of truth. So this kid, did he like what he actually wheeled around and like pointed and said, "This one too?" Like,
yeah, like he went up and he was like, me and him, and he pointed like right at me, but because there was like a line of
oh,
kids,
then yeah,
it looked, yeah, like it was like a moment where because it happens in every church. And in adult churches, they do it because this is the time where the pastors make their money.
yeah,
Pastors, like every church knows, they make the most money when they can get the most people to stand up and be saved and catch the Holy Ghost.
mhm,
Some churches are even known to have fake people
mhm,
go up and get saved just to get the morale
yeah.
going and inspire others.
Hey, it worked.
But
When I was
he
in
was that.
radio, we used to fake concert winners so more people would call in. It's a proven science.
Yeah, it works. It works. You gotta get those claps.
Uh, that this is fascinating. And yeah, and I went through 2 phases of it where early '80s, even though they were the biggest band in the world, but they were known differently. U2 had come from, quote, "a Christian background," which when you look at
Yes.
it, there was some truth to that, some not, just from the Irish Catholic upbringing. And people in my church were told we were told, you can't listen to U2, they've backslidden. But then later, it was Amy Grant. When Amy Grant she was the late '80s, mid to late '80s, singing El Shaddai. She was the golden girl of church music, of Christian pop. And when she went secular, my God, it was the pitchforks came out, and it was like you needed to burn your Amy Grant CDs. So that's fast. I didn't live through the Katy Perry one, other than I just saw when she was kissing girls on MTV.
Yeah.
That's fascinating stuff that you're telling me, and how you've emerged from that, and to see, and seems as though, again, I never want to put words in any guest's mouth, but you've pushed past the people speaking for God and have spoken to God. It seems to get some clarity on who you are and where you are, and
Exactly.
find.
Like I no longer owe it.
All right, we did it. We did a harsh cut because we got so into this interview, and Christopher does he has a stand up set tonight, so I want to get him to that. But we got so into our conversation, Christopher, you faded away into the darkness of your kitchen, and you.
I did. That was that was the devil claiming me. He was like, this is my section. They're talking religion, and I need to show them that I am in the
You're
building.
talking
This,
religion and sexuality. In the time we have remaining here, this is fascinating. I want to hear more of this, and we're gonna next time we're around each other, we're gonna pull up to a bar, and whether you drink or not, we're gonna talk about all of this. This is fascinating. Yeah, and I love where it's leading. And one of the smartest things you've said a lot of smart things today, Christopher. But in hearing you tell the story of, hey, this is where I am now, and maybe I do end up in the suburbs, married with kids, and who I'm married to, we'll see. And when I get there, we'll see. It's an ongoing journey, and it seems like you realize that, but also have taken some great strides in the last year or two, and comedy's definitely factored into that. So that's no question, just a statement or a pat on the back for you. I think you got a great look at where you're going and where you've been.
thank you. I appreciate
Comedy itself here. You I know you mostly as a host, and you, again, that's, I don't want to ever pigeonhole any performer, but I, in my earlier days of stand up, was the host. I was the host, and I love doing it. It's an art. I think we talked off air about protecting the show, and you also are exposed to a lot more comics than just, my friends, very talented friends, would swing in, they do their set, and they go back downstairs and they start eating dinner and they drink, and people are hanging around them, and the girls I was attracted to but didn't look my way were hanging on them, and I was upstairs hosting with 15 comics,
that.
10 of them horrible. It's a gauntlet, but it's an art. And how have you found yourself as a comic being a host, as compared to just doing sets?
I will say this. I think that as the MC, I take it seriously as you're someone who's setting up this to be a good show. And you're also someone who's steering the ship to keep it being a good show, even if comedians aren't doing so well.
Mm,
One thing that I did do to keep myself alive is that I didn't do the host thing where I only did my traditional like hosting set where it's like tried and true, and I know this gonna work the room. I usually would split it in half or even have fun with it if I felt like I could get away with it, where I would have half a tried and true, and I would still do my new stuff or still do stuff that I would never do anything too fresh. But because I actually write more than I perform,
mm,
like I'm constantly writing new jokes. So sometimes I genuinely will forget my old stuff because like my mind has just been on new
I get
stuff.
that.
So that's it. That's been a way for me to keep myself honest in being a host and keep myself from becoming too bittered. I think that's what happens sometimes, and it naturally should happen because you're at the party, but you're not able to have fun at the party.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's such a like, you have to just accept that sometimes as a host, you might start the show and like people are still drinking and people are still eating their food,
Oh,
and then you're watching comic number seven perform to a full room at this point. Everybody's paying attention. Everybody's warmed up. Everything is just ringing off.
yeah,
And you just have to, like it sucks. Like it does suck, but you kind of have to just have it. I've always felt that being a host was going to be my token to being exposed
mm, mm,
to other people. And with that, I always made a point to make sure I was staying funny and being funny by continuing to write and continuing to practice.
mm,
Like, even when and at times it would exhaust me and I had to kind of figure out what worked for me.
yeah,
But then like at Flappers, there was a time where I kid you not, I remember being on a show every single night at
mm,
Flappers. There was a time where I was like there every single night for either I was hosting or I was just doing a slot on it.
mhm,
And I remember kind of feeling weird about it because I started feeling like, oh, like I'm kind of doing the same set. And for me personally, I started to feel like, well, I'm wasting my own time in development if I'm doing the same set on all these
mm,
shows
mm,
because I'm no longer taking a risk. But like as a person, I want to be a risk taker. I want to always be pushing myself and challenging myself. And if I'm not if I'm not stepping away from my usual set to give myself the opportunity to maybe fall on my face and not do so well, or learn like, oh, the audience doesn't like that, or
Mhm.
oh, like this punchline you thought was gonna work doesn't really work that well. If I'm not giving my opportunity to fail in that way, then I'm not truly growing as a comedian. And all this exposure I'm getting is going to waste. Like I truly think that I think it's pretty like some people fall into the habit of thinking, "Oh, I get booked and invited to do so much stuff because I'm just so great." I don't think, at least for me personally, I do think that I'm a quality comedian, but I think that people have this respect for he's taking it serious. He is writing this material. He's respecting the show. He's not like some hosts will kind of get in like that scenario I just set up.
Yeah.
A host, it is plain ego
Mhm.
when a host will choose in between comedians to start doing jokes.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
it's nothing but ego. It's nothing but ego.
Yep.
That is you losing control of your ego, and it happens.
Mhm.
But you have to learn the lesson of that and not do it
Yep.
again, and understand your because for me, I think I understand the position of the
You do.
host, and if I'm able to receive value from it,
Mhm.
understanding it for what it is, and not trying to manipulate it into what I wish it could be.
No, you look, man, you're really wise. You were probably the most annoying 5-year-old because you're probably smarter than all the adults in the room. You've got some great insight to it and trying to translate this just beyond comedy, but it is about truly knowing what you're there to do. And I'll
That,
say this, there's some good hosts at Flappers that I enjoy and I see often. But you, even though you don't do time all that you do time when you need to do time between the comics, but it's still a Christopher show. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it still has your imprint on it, but it does not
yeah,
have your ego shadowing it all, and it drives
yeah,
me crazy when a comic's like, "That last comic killed, I'm gonna do 3 minutes so I can kill here." You failed at that point. You failed. You failed the show.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Well, I don't mean to get off on an old man rant here. Beyond, where you are right now and where you're going and where you came from, law school and all those kind of things. What's where right now is your not end goal, but next phase as a performer, as a writer, as an actor, beyond success? We all want success and sleep on money and piles of cocaine. That's great. But like, do you have so where are you going now as we close this interview? Where's Christopher Cowan-Blond going to be in a year as the bougie bisexual?
In a year,
Yeah.
I would have liked to. In a year, I will build a community via a following that I can feed into and that can support me and allow me to travel to come and see them to based off of that following. I want to get to a place where I plan to get to a place where I will have people who are eager to see what's going on, and I can come out and support them wherever they are, and they can come out and support me wherever I am.
That's beautiful. Well said, well thought, and, you're truly one of my favorites, and I believe you're gonna achieve this, and I think you're doing great work. I think you're doing funny work, but as your profile starts to rise, you're gonna have more people show up to shows and say, "Hey, you've spoken to me, by being who you are," and I think that's the best thing you can do as a comic. So, Christopher, thank you for coming by. I really appreciate it. You got a show you gotta do. I gotta get you out of here. But before you leave, tell them all where they can find you and your wonderful bougie bisexual self.
I am Christopher, and you can find me at a bougie bisexual on Instagram and YouTube.
Lovely. Look them up, my friends. Thanks for listening to me. As always, you can go to my website for more information. I'll be adding some comedy shows. Mark Ellis and I are going to be heading up to Seattle in late December and more things on the way. And please, if you want to, check out my album, In My Day, recorded live at the Harrison Pub in London back in April. It is up as a special edition with 30 minutes of bonus content on Bandcamp. Go to kennapzok.bandcamp.com. Links down below. And subscribe to the channel. Do these things if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast feed that's been going for over 11 years, I thank you. And we'll see you next time here on the Blathering Conversations.